Hey, it's the Believe in Texans podcast where Cecil Shorts joins us from high school weight room where there's kids being exuberant in the background, which is better than a dog barking. We'll deal with that. It's more exuberance than I feel, Cecil, after a 14-9 loss to the Rams, in which, man, it does not feel like a 14-9 loss. I think if people didn't watch this game, they might be surprised at how distraught Texans were over what was a close game versus I think what's going to be a good football team. But man, a lot to be frustrated about with the offense in particular in this game.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I would say lackluster performance for sure. I wasn't expecting 40 points or 35 points, but I expected more than 9. I expected more. I expected a touchdown. I expected a touchdown. You know what I mean? I would say this. I'm being real particular. I went back and watched the film. So many condensed formations, and I know that's a part of the McVay, as a part of like that kind of style, but you also see McVay get wider too, or there's a lot of misdirection. And when you condense the splits, I feel like it kind of could confuse the quarterback when it comes to like who's coming and who's not. Where's the pressure coming from? Where's it not coming from? Also, it's hard to scheme guys open if everybody's so close. It takes a little longer for you to get across. It's just my thoughts on top of my head. Sorry.
Oh, no. I think that's exactly right because, look, it's going to be mostly the offense we'll probably talk about. The defense, I'm not completely excusing because the second half performance by both the offense and the defense was not nearly as good as, at least I think the defense did some really good things in the first half. The second half, the Rams just came out and just sliced right down through the defense on that first drive. And then, on that final, what could have been a touchdown drive, Aziz Al-Shaair bails him out. And credit to him. Like, he made a football play and stopped it. But it very, very easily could have been a 21-point output by the Rams. I think on the offensive side of the ball, where you come into this game expecting a few things and expecting a cleaner operation. I've been promising a cleaner operation. Like, I've been telling people, like, hey, look, this is what they're doing in training camp. It looks better. C.J. Stroud's in command and control. Then you start right off the bat with a false start. You've got 2 illegal shifts. You've just got 11 total penalties in the game. And both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, I think you excuse the aggressive penalties, but some of the penalties, obviously on offense in the pre-snap, were sloppy. But even that Darrell Taylor encroachment at the end of the third quarter when Stafford was obviously trying to draw the defense offside, there's too much sloppiness out there. And they ended up on offense they were averaged on their third downs. They were 2 for 9 on third downs. They averaged 3rd and 11. And a lot of that's just because of those negative plays through penalties or what have you. I mean, the run game was a positive in terms of it wasn't as bad as it was last year, but Nick Chubb only got 13 carries, and he was the only running back that was really doing anything as a runner.
That was confusing to me. Like, why? And maybe because, like you said, behind the sticks, penalties move you back, but he actually looked decent yesterday. Again, nothing too explosive. I think his longest run was in between tackle, like a power play, maybe about 13, 14 yards. But he was consistently getting positive yards over and over again. Then you can use the play action off of that. Maybe that can open up Nico, a play action off of that, right? But 13 carries, you need more of that, especially in a 14-9 game. You need more carries because you're in the game. Regardless of what was going on, you were in the game the entire time. So for me, that's a little confusing. I asked you this, Dare, did you expect him to get that many reps?
No, I just all I kept thinking, and it was, look, the play before he fumbled on the final drive, that was a nice reception. They got to him. I think you're just at a point where Joe Mixon's injured. We don't know if or when he's coming back, and this is the crew that they're going to run with. I don't want to look at the first game as like, hey, we'll just use this as a tryout for all the running backs. But it felt a little bit like they were using it as a tryout for all the running backs, unless it was just that they didn't, Nick Chubb didn't feel like he was up to, or they didn't feel like he was up to more than 13 carries. They didn't want to have the negative run plays that they did last year. And by and large, they did a pretty good job of that. But if you look at the success rate for the Texans, this is before the Sunday night game, they had an above average success rate. I know that graphic's hard to read, but if you just look over, the Texans were 9th. And part of that was just because Nick Chubb actually had a lot of positive carries, especially on that final drive. The third downs and a lot of the other plays took away from that. I guess we got to go to the offensive line. And I think it's hard to separate maybe the offensive line from the offseason strategy, because you start off with Ed Ingram announced out for the game. So they moved Titus Howard down to guard. They moved the rookie Ariante Ursary from left tackle over to right tackle. At one point, Cam Robinson gets hurt. And so you rejigger the line again. Jake Andrews, the center, goes out. And I can't. I don't know if I can do this for another season, Cecil. I think they genuinely did some positive things, but this shuffling around to the offensive line, and especially your rookie, I get nervous about Ariante Ursary's development.
It does nothing but, for a rookie, it does nothing but put doubt in his head. He was mainly, correct me if I'm wrong, he was mainly at left tackle majority of the camp.
Yeah.
Right. So coming into the week, he's thinking he's left tackle. Don't shuffle everybody around, especially the rookie. Let him stay where he's comfortable, especially against a really good defensive line. Have him the most comfortable, and let the other vets, if you got to move around, let the other vets move. But him going from left to right, that's a completely different side of things. You're in the complete opposite of where you were. And whether you know it or not, that's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different, not different technique, but it's the opposite of your technique. So you're focused on doing something with the left. Now you got to focus on doing it with the right. It just causes confusion and doubt. And there's no way he went into the game as confident as he was if he would have been at left tackle. There's just no way.
Yeah, especially versus that defensive line. I mean, he's over there at right tackle, and Byron Robinson just forklifted his hands up off him and really gave him a welcome to the NFL moment. He had some good plays in the game. As far as CJ Stroud and the operation went, how did you feel it looked with him directing traffic, with him being more involved in the pass protection?
It looked decent. It looked decent. I don't think he's very confident with it yet. This is my opinion. I think he got confused a couple times. I even think him calling the protection, understanding what's going on with the line of scrimmage, and then now post snap, he has to figure out where he wants to go. That transition is tough, and sometimes he held the ball too long where he had guys open, right? So he held the ball. And a few of those sacks were on him, honestly, because he was holding the ball wrong or didn't climb up in the pocket like he needed to do. But I think the transition from calling the shots pre-snap and then post-snap, understanding where to go and how to read it, that's gonna be a thing for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, man, when the quarterback can control the protection, that puts a lot of pressure on him to really understand where the blitz is coming from. And there were at least a couple times where I think CJ called the protection based on one thing, and then the pressure came from the other side. Yeah. And this is one of the hiccups that I kind of anticipated and tried to warn people about, that those quarterbacks like Matt Stafford that can come up to the line of scrimmage and they know they've got a book on that safety, and they know when he's actually blitzing versus when he's just disguising a blitz and then dropping off into coverage. The disguise looks were actually something that CJ talked about. When he was asked why did they have a hard time getting the ball to Nico Collins or just the deep ball in general, is what he said. Yeah, I mean, I think we could see that a few times where, especially when there were a couple plays where on play action, the defense is shifting as the ball is snapped, and then CJ has to turn his back to the defense. You see him turn back around and look and try to assess what's actually going on in the coverage. And that one sack he took where Jake Andrews guy got CJ, but CJ could have stepped up into the pocket there. I mean, I think these are the blips you're going to get along the way. And it's some of the same stuff you saw with Bobby Slowick last year. It's just that now that CJ at least has some agency in the matter, I suppose.
I'm telling you, I love condensed splits. I absolutely love them. I love it when the receivers are in closer. There's so many things you can do. But when you bring them in closer, now the defense can play more games. They can disguise more. So now
they're already up at the line of scrimmage, right?
They're naturally at the line of scrimmage. So now if I'm a nickel, I can play like I'm coming, I'm faking I'm coming, and I'll come back and cover. Like it's so many things you could do. Whereas I think if they spread it out, now I can really say if this nickel's coming, this linebacker's coming, this safety's going to blitz. I can see it a little bit more clear. So I wonder how that's going to look week 2. Even though, I love the condensed splits, what you can do with that, really with the routes. but it's just sometimes hard to navigate who's coming, who's not, where's the pressure coming from, and where you should slide your front to.
Yeah, the FanDuel in week 2 has the Texans as 2.5-point underdogs at home after the Bucks had a 3-point victory over the Falcons. Falcons pass rush did some damage in that game, so we'll see how all that turns out. The Nico Collins himself. I mean, when you watch Puka Nacua have 10 receptions for 130 yards, it's hard to sit and watch your own stud sit there and only have 4 receptions. I thought you'd want to take a look at this. Look. I'm going to show you Nico Collins' routes in the game, and man, they had him all over the place. It wasn't like for lack of trying. It wasn't like they just had him, running a bunch of goes or stops and just being predictable. But especially over the middle, where sometimes with the slants, it's so good to get Nico. Is there anything about that chart that jumps out at you in a negative way?
Yeah, I think it's predictable. I would go the opposite of what you say. I think everything you're trying to do is they're targeting him, or his routes are towards the middle of the field.
I'm seeing that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, maybe we need to double move off of that, come inside, then come back out. But that's interesting. His routes are there. But you got to find a way. I'm sorry, you got to find a way to get your best guy the ball. There's no excuse for him to only have 4 catches. Like it should be on your chart. Nico Collins and his 7 to 10 best plays or best routes to get him the ball. Like Puka and Devontae, those guys, they looked really good on the other side as far as finding ways to get their playmakers the ball.
Yeah.
And I think Nick wants to do that with his guys too. But you have to really find ways to get Nico the ball. And then to me, that's predictable. He's always coming here, in. So maybe doing something a little different will help out with that.
What about having Christian Kirk and/or Braxton Berrios versus Jalen Noel, a rookie? And does that maybe perhaps open things up and not have to necessarily rely on as many condensed formations?
Could be. I think you're a lot more comfortable with Christian Kirk or Braxton in the game. I think you trust him a little bit more. Even though I think Higgins and Noel played decent yesterday with the reps they got. Noel didn't get tons of targets or tons of reps, but he played decent. It's just with Christian Kirk on the field, he understands it. He gets it. So he can be the guy maybe goes over the middle. And now you got somebody over the top, like a Nico to go for a post or a dig or an out or a corner, whatever the case may be, even a go route. So I think him having Christian Kirk on the field is a big help the more I think about it.
That interception where it looked like Higgins had the catch, I felt like that was a welcome to the NFL moment. That was, I'm not in Iowa State anymore. These guys, I'm not playing Kansas anymore. Like, I thought I had that. I was ready for I was going to have my toe tapping moment of glory on the side.
Man.
Yoinked it right out of his hands.
That was a heck of a play. Great job by him tracking the ball and going up to get it. But you're right. Welcome to the league. This is not going to be wide open.
Right. Yeah. And there was another play. I sent you a play. It was 3rd and long, and I was curious because there was a 4-man pass rush by the Rams. CJ had a clean pocket, and he settled for Jaden Higgins over the middle, and he was tackled immediately after the first down. Nico's down at the bottom. And it was like CJ had mentioned, there were a lot of disguised cover 2 looks. I couldn't tell. This is something that the Rams shifted into, and I couldn't tell whether it was a disguised cover 2 or it was just simple deep cover 3. But it looked like there might have been an opportunity that if you let the play develop, CJ could have just tested, tried to hit that hole between the safety and the corner. Down the sideline. Is that me just not realizing how quickly safeties can cover ground, or did it look like something that maybe it was just him starting to feel that pressure a little bit?
So you sent that clip, and I watched it a bunch of times. It was definitely cover 2 on Nico's side, right?
Yeah.
And there was no flat offensive guy to that corner side, meaning he could have kept dropping back if the ball wasn't thrown. So I think it would have been a really tough throw. Based on that corner that's kind of playing up, almost like a 2-man type look where he's basically in man coverage because there's no threat in the flat, so he can just kind of drop back under Nico and that safety get over the top. Now, can CJ put a ball there? He probably could. And honestly, in that situation, I think it was towards the end of the 3rd quarter, 3rd and 19.
Yeah.
He put him on the sideline. If Nico can't get it, nobody can get it, right? So I kind of understand it. I wouldn't mind him taking that shot right there. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would have been a tough throw. It would have been a tough throw, but I wouldn't mind him taking that shot right there. I just wish there was a flat defender there to hold that corner to come up a little bit. Now it's more of a bigger window.
That's where it's I struggle with that too, because as a young quarterback, you're trying to teach them, all right, when to just be careful. Like, okay, we can play for field position. It's still a one-score game at this point, and let's just get the yardage and punt versus, all right, let's take our shot right here. So it wasn't anything I was going to crush him for. But sometimes it's funny. I always have to cross-check with you guys, because sometimes you know how it is. It looks so easy on film. Like, why did you just throw the ball out there? What? There's nobody near him right now. And then you forget that the ball's going to be in the air for 3 seconds. Yeah. And that's, he had the best completion percentage over expected in his career when pressured in that game. And that actually matches the eyeball test somewhat. I mean, some of the times he was pressured and he ran. There were other times he took a sack, but when he threw the ball, he was, I want to say 9 for 10 or 8 for 10 or something like that. But that's how it felt in the first half, especially when they were moving the ball. Like, man, it's a lot of work. Like, there's not a rhythm here. It doesn't feel like we're not methodically moving down the field with any kind of rhythm or tempo. And it was a lot of hero ball at times. Not even hero ball, but just him having to make some pretty impressive throws. The defense held up their bargain, at least when it comes to covering the spread. I mean, the Texans were 3-point underdogs. Anytime you hold a team to 14 points, then all right, that should be a closer game than the 14-9 that it was. But I've got some concerns just in terms of what the secondary was doing and how they looked. The biggest one is just Jalen Petrie. When, man, Stafford knew that he had Petrie as a target, especially if Petrie's manned up on Puka Nacua. Obviously, it was easy money at times.
I hate to say this, I just don't think, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's that good of a cover guy when it comes to covering the top guys in the league, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a safety. Better. He's not a cornerback. Yeah.
Yes, he's much better with the bigger guys. He's much better with the tight end types. When it comes to Devontae Adams and Puka or whoever else we play in the Texans play in the future, I don't think I like that matchup. I would find another way to either move Stingley inside or just find something else to do, because it was Gardner Johnson at one point too. It was just easy pickings. Whether it was an out route, an in route, a skinny post, it was just easy for Matt. He got the ball out quick, and he kind of targeted him. Okay, wait, so Petrie's on him again? All right, here I come again. It was like easy pickings, and it just wasn't something that I think we saw that last year against Devontae Adams in the Jets game. Like we see this before, over and over again, that I don't think Petrie should be on. He should not be covering receivers, high quality receivers, over and over again.
Well, and that's where, look, the Texans did a great job versus the run. Rams averaged 2.9 yards per carry against the run, and Stafford averaged negative 0.5 yards per carry. So let's say 2.9 or 3 yards per carry with the running backs. Like, they did a really good job versus the run, but the flip side of that is, man, they got duped in play action a bunch. And sometimes it was Petrie, sometimes it was the linebackers. And in those situations, especially that one, the game sealing drive, it's third and 8. There's no reason to anticipate run necessarily, other than the Rams are trying to soak up the clock there. But just you don't have to sell out. It doesn't have to be a tackle for a loss. It's third down, but they bite on it, and that's the part where the defense played well enough to win in this game, but the overall lack of discipline, it's not just the penalties. I think some of these mental errors that the Texans defense was making last year, where they're so aggressive and they make so many great plays behind the line of scrimmage, but sometimes it's really hurting them when they get duped in the run. Down in the red zone, that touchdown they gave up, they had multiple guys biting on the run there.
Yeah. I mean, the safety bit, the I think Henry bit on that tight end, or the touchdown to the tight end. It was a really well-designed play, honestly. It's just you have to know, I'll say this, better situational awareness. That's basically what you just said. It's third and 8. They're not going to basically run the ball. Have situational awareness. I can be a little bit more passive here and expect a pass, expect a play action. And if it's run, I'm still right here. I can come down and stop the play in front. right? So there's a little more situational awareness. Hopefully that improves as the year goes.
The game coming up versus the Rams, they have, as I pointed out, the Texans are 2.5-point underdogs versus the Bucks, and the over/under on that game is 43.5. Which, after just watching the other day, yesterday's game, I'm like, I don't know if the Texans can score. You expect them to score 20 points or so? They've got a really good test versus the Vita Vea there, the defensive tackle for the Buccaneers. But I guess the one thing, too, that I noticed during the game that I want to go back and watch on film was when the Texans were disguising their looks defensively at the line of scrimmage, there were just too many times where I could watch and see, like, all right, no, that guy's not blitzing. That guy's not blitzing. I know these linebackers are dropping out. And Stafford was just so smooth with, I think, recognizing that. And the Texans got him a couple of times. One of the sacks, they did a good job of confusing Matt Stafford to the line of scrimmage. But those little things that we talk about sloppiness, that includes, man, when you're making it look like you're going to blitz, look like you do when you're actually blitzing. Look antsy. Look like you're about to go. But there's too many times where they're just standing straight up, and then at the snap, they drop out.
I tell you what, I want to see, going back to the offense, I want to see how quickly Matthew Stafford got the ball out. I was expecting that to be CJ. Like, I wanted him to get the ball out quickly to his guys, whether it was the quick game, whether it was guys coming on a mesh and just rolling, catching and getting the open field and running. Like, he was, even on the out routes, the deeper routes, the ball was coming out quick and on time. And Matthew Stafford didn't really practice the entire training camp. So for him to be that developed, I'm like, ooh, he looks good compared to CJ. And I'm like, okay, you can tell the wheels are still spinning some. So I expect to see more of what I saw from the Rams offense typically with CJ and those guys. I think it's just going to take a little bit more time. But they looked, I'm not going to lie, they looked pretty good.
As far as the offense goes, I think it is going to get better. I think, like you said, it's a lot of moving parts, and it's a lot for a quarterback to process. And I've been saying this all offseason long. It's cool that CJ's got all these extra responsibilities, but it's like going from driving an automatic to driving a stick shift. And I know he did it in high school. I know he did it in college. It's different. In college, you're going against defenses that are made up of 20-year-old men that spend 2.5 hours a day on football. Like in the NFL, you're doing it versus some of those guys who are working 12 hours a day, and they've been in the NFL for years and years and years. It's just a different level of difficulty. As far as Stafford, all right, this is where you and I were both wrong as hell on. It's like, okay, all right, I knew when he did that QB sneak down on the goal line in the first half. I'm like, all right, well, they don't. If he's feeling any kind of way about his back, I don't think they're running that play at all. And you talked about the ball coming out fast. He had the second fastest time to throw in the league going into before the Monday night game. So like it came out fast. And last year, just by way of reference, he was like 17th in the league in terms of how fast the ball came out. So, I mean, McVay, and I know I mentioned that, hey, McVay, the Rams teams have gotten off the slow starts in the last few years or what have you. In the opening game in his career, I think McVay is now either 7-2 or 8-2. So it's McVay with time to plot, time to think about his quarterback going, and he's got film with the Texans defense, and he knows how they operate. I don't think anybody would argue that against the Rams, that the Rams won the coaching battle on both sides of the ball in that game.
No, not at all. They did a great job game planning. Like you said, I didn't realize he was 8-2 or 7-2 coming into that. I mean, it makes sense though, right? You got so much time to prepare and figure it out, and you pretty much bring all your guys back. But yeah, they were impressive. But I'll say this: I'm looking at Twitter last night, and the Texans fans were going crazy. Oh my gosh, it's just Bobby Slowick 2.0 and all that. Like, relax. It's early. It's early. Now, again,
that's what I keep telling myself.
We need to see improvement. We need to see improvement this week. It cannot be the same, but it's still early.
Well, if you look at, last year, the Eagles started off with a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. He's been in the league since the 1980s. He's been around, and the Eagles defense got off to a rough start last year. And the defense ends up being one of the best in the league. And I think that's what you always have to remember is, man, you could look at various times the Patriots got just absolutely destroyed by the Chiefs or the Lions early in the season, and then went on to win a Super Bowl in those years. So, yeah, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Some of the teams that looked awesome yesterday, like the Colts, I don't know. I mean, Colts looked unstoppable, but they were also doing it versus the Dolphins. I don't know how long Mike McDaniel is for this league after that game.
Oh, my gosh, that was bad.
Yeah, so we'll catch up on Wednesday. We'll preview the Bucks game a little bit, and everybody, thanks for listening. Please leave a positive review on Apple, like and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring. Everybody, have a great one.